You're listening to Ask Wren, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask Wren, the podcast, with your host, who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate, Wren Charles. Ask Wren, the podcast, starts right now.
Welcome to Ask Wren, everyone. This afternoon I have Jeni with me, and Jeni and I actually met in person. We were lucky enough to attend a physical conference when those things still existed. We were lucky enough to attend PodFest, and so Jeni and I have met in person. We also follow each other on Facebook. So I'm going to let Jeni take it away and share her story with you guys.
Hey everyone, Wren, I was so appreciative that you reached out to have me on. It's been nice getting to know you in the online world for the last few months, especially through the PodFest communities, etc. So yeah, I'm Jeni Wren Stottrup, and I am a podcast producer, and I'm a musician, and have been working in media for a really long time. And this week marked 1 year since I left my day job. And this May marks 5 years since I launched my podcast. So it's been a really neat journey for me to kind of end up where I am, because my journey has not necessarily been like a traditional path that so many podcasters have as far as being in media. When I first started doing that, I was working in journalism and also in audio. And so it's been such a fun, perfect job for me to be able to communicate with people all the time. And it's definitely a really interesting time. And over the last month, I've just done a lot of consults with people just trying to figure out how to do their streaming. And it's really been neat to connect with people even more than I think I was before, just because everyone is in the online world now. And while I definitely miss the part of our lives where we get to see each other, again, I really appreciate that we had PodFest, because we haven't really had a moment like that since the second that happened. And that's been a very jarring thing for all of us, and just a little surreal, to be honest. So
yes.
Here in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. So where are you based, Wren?
I am based in lovely, shut down, right now, Aspen, Colorado.
Okay. Yeah, I know the area.
So it's quiet. It's quiet, but yeah. But it's quiet, but it's nice. And when it opens back up, we're going to have a problem, because the tourists will come back in the main Aspen, Colorado. I don't want that. I want quiet Aspen, Colorado. I always want quiet Aspen, Colorado.
You're like, I like this.
I like this quiet. But anyway, that's beside the point. So, Jeni, if you had to move and only take 5 things with you, what would they be?
I would definitely bring my computer and a microphone, and a computer, a microphone, and some headphones. Like, just alone, those would be really important tools for me. Or the other way would just be taking my phone and a microphone and some headphones. I think that would be a very key thing. A notebook and a really good backpack. Because I don't know, I do a lot of traveling, and I've noticed that those are the things that just naturally come with me. I feel like a toothbrush would be really helpful, just because it's funny when you think about what you just need if you needed to go. And the remote travel and the remote recording has been something that I've enjoyed so much. And while I don't always use them, being able to have those tools with me at all times is something that's really great. And I do like being able to have my computer, but if it was like you have to leave the second, you'd have to make some choices as far as space. And it's funny when you think of that, because we're heading into this time where we're all sheltered in place, but it feels like when we thought everything would shut down someday, the joke of the zombie apocalypse, like, what are you going to grab? And now you're like, what do you keep in your house, right? Because no one's going anywhere.
Well, what do you keep? Yeah, exactly. And so, if your best friend was going to write a book, what would the title be? And yes, your best friend is going to write a book about you.
That would be my best friend, Jessica Potts. And it would probably be, I guess probably lately everyone's saying it would be about podcasting. But for us, I think it would be kind of about my adventures. I think that she would write about kind of the adventures that I've had in my life, because that's been a huge part of my existence, because I'm just always on the go or on the road. And that's one of the things that brings us passion, and that we used to really love doing when we were together back on the Midwest in college. So I think the adventure side would really be a huge part of it.
And
Yeah.
what is your favorite book, and what is the title?
My favorite book is The Little Prince, and it was my uncle had a copy of it, and I never met him. He passed before I was born, and he was a huge lover of books. So when I grew up, we had all of his sci-fi books, a lot of his classics, and my brother and I used to get into the books. And I was an avid reader. We were often traveling during the summer on the weekends to see family or just to travel around the U.S. My parents were teachers. And that one's really special to me because I think it's a really great parable, and also it just brings back memories of just thinking about that part of the family, and just somebody I never got to know has a connection to him. But I actually have the first edition in English, a pop-up version of it. I had it in French, German, and English. It became a thing I just started collecting over the years.
And for those of you that don't know, the libraries right now are using Libby and Overdrive as the systems of choice, and you can go be my guest and get The Little Prince if you guys haven't read that. I know that Audible is offering a discount. I know that so many online courses are now offering a discount that it's not even funny. And so, as we sit in this time, April 7th, as we
7th.
record this podcast, and I just want you guys to read books and enjoy. And so, Jenny, what is your morning routine?
I am not a huge morning person, so usually it's set the alarm for 8 and then snooze it a few times, get up, start checking my email, figure out what my plan is for the day. I often will start work probably closer to 10. I'll send a few emails. And I live in a really, really small space, so it generally is, get up, have some water, like take a walk if I can, or just kind of stretch, get myself out of my bed, because my bed space is the same place as my studio, and also my kitchenette. So it's kind of interesting having and working in a really, really small place, because I have to be very unique about trying to spread out. So like I had just walked outside, but there was just a lot of wind. So I was like, oh, maybe we'll just record on the earphones today. Usually I use my system, but we were using Uber Conference. But I live in a nice little neighborhood, so being able to walk around is really nice. Just being someone who works for myself and works from home, that is important for me to get out of the house every day for a little bit. So this has been interesting, not being able to leave for a little while. Usually in the afternoons. Yeah, usually in the afternoons I meet up with people, but now it's like, okay, how do we just figure out how to not stay in bed? Yesterday I didn't leave bed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's a lot. It's a lot. And so, yeah, but your morning routine and your afternoon routine has changed dramatically, as mine has. But Jenny, where can people find you and how can people get a hold of you? And that go me, I haven't subscribed to your podcast yet. I
Ooh,
should.
yeah. So my podcast is actually a music podcast, and it's narrative. It comes out sometimes. Recently, in the last year, a lot. What I've been pushing is my company. So I work and help people get their audio. I help people in media, and so I have a company. Gritty Birds is the show, but I started a company, and it's under the same name, so Gritty Birds Podcasting. And you can find me at grittybirds.com. And right now, I'm doing a streaming series, and it's all education. So I started off with my podcast 101, and then we went into streaming for a couple weeks, including how to really optimize your interfaces. I brought my friend Jay on last week. This week I'm going to be starting to talk more about media and kind of your press kits. A lot of what I have is very applicable for anyone doing launches. Like my undergrad was in political communication. So I've been doing event planning and running events for at least 15 years, as well as recording during that time. So it's really a nice way to connect doing some of these streams because it's really simple. And I'll probably do more with the podcast, but you can subscribe by going to grittybirds.com/free Fridays, and that's GRITTY. A lot of people think, oh, are you saying pretty birds? And I'm like, no, not pretty birds.
No,
I'm like, because it's about, my brand is about, really having that stick-to-itness. I'm from Iowa. My family's from Minnesota, and a lot of our family's also from Colorado and California, just for Scandinavian and German. And, we really are people that worked hard. We didn't have a ton growing up, but we were able to just make the best of resources and, do pretty decently for ourselves. And I just think that grit is something that we really need in life to be able to, have that strength of character. And it's even more relevant right now in this time where it's, there's bad days, and sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to have a bad day, and then tomorrow I'm going to jump back in.
yes.
So that's kind of that is my message, not kind of my message. That's my message.
And I appreciate
helping people.
Saying that Coloradoans have the stick to itness, because
For sure.
I
We're ranchers.
I am a Colorado native. For those of you that don't know, I was born and raised in Colorado, Aspen, and so I have the Colorado, toughness and Colorado winning attitude. No pun intended on that one. So, Jenny, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, so I was actually very excited about your recent conversations about being a journalist. I thought that was interesting because you are a prolifically published author, and I was very curious kind of about what your process about writing books is and what your vision is with what you want to be doing in journalism.
Well, as of right now, you guys, I am obtaining a journalism degree / mass communications degree in at Ashford University in lovely San Diego, all online. Thank you very much. When this whole thing hit, my school was already online, so I didn't have to get used to the online learning. Thank you. And I am taking the untraditional path to journalism. I ended up, my original career was in lovely teaching. And due to everything that's gone on, I have got laid off my job. I wanted to quit in May. I had a plan to quit in May. I landed up quitting March 13th, 2020. And so since then, I have been producing Ask Win and obtaining my degree, but I think that the unique path to journalism is suited me well. And what I want to do, Jenny, is I want to bang the drum for people with disabilities. And you guys always knew that. But I essentially want to bang the drum. You guys don't know this, but I essentially want to not only bang the drum for those with disabilities, but more importantly, the people that help us out, because the caregivers, aka the
Mhm.
parents, aka the aides, aka anyone that has any interaction with a disability. Because I learned after my dad died that this is my calling, this speaking up for not only people with disabilities, but speaking up for people who care for people with disabilities is my calling, because the disabled now are getting forgotten about. They're getting sheltered in place. They have
Yeah.
no clue as to what's going on.
It's really
I
hard. Yeah.
They have no clue as to what's going on. So if I step in as the outsider looking in and tell the aides and tell them what's going on, it's going to be easier, because um, I actually have a friend who whose mother is deaf, and
Mhm.
her mom understands what's going on to an extent, but because of her her being deaf, she doesn't understand unless you explain it to her. And trust me,
Right.
I had the privilege of working with her daughter, and meeting her daughter's her mom in October. And so I really want to focus on not only the disabled, but the caregiving end of it, because I understand that it's a challenge. And for those who are disabled and do not understand what's going on, and I have held this secret um, since October. You guys thought I was going to bang the drum for the disabled, but it's going to be more for the caregivers slash the disabled, because this shelter in place has taught me that unless you, as the caregiver, explain to the disabled person what's going on in the way that they can understand it, they won't understand it. I mean, I have a friend in Denver, and I'm going to give a shout out to another podcast, the Shining Beautiful podcast, that I helped create, the Shining Beautiful series podcast that I helped create, run by the fabulous Mikkel, Mikkel Leonard and Catherine Kill out of Denver, Colorado. And it's all about people with disabilities. Mikkel herself has cerebral palsy, and I've been lucky enough to watch these two women, mother and daughter team, speak twice, and I was so inspired by them that when they wanted to give up McKell's motivational speaking career, who did they look to help them develop a podcast? They looked to me, because they
Right.
knew that I could understand McKell's language, and they knew that I could understand the podcasting well. But my
Right.
point being is trying to explain to a non-verbal person what's going
Right.
on is interesting show, and trying to explain to a deaf person what's going on is an interesting show. So I think I know my journalism degree, my journalism gears are going towards people with disabilities, but I'm going to put the emphasis on the caregivers, because the caregivers need help as much as the people with disabilities.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I used to be, I had my master's in education and I taught for several years. And I have worked as a caregiver before, working in respite, and it is really challenging on both sides of it. It's like my best friend growing up, her mother, who's my mom's best friend, she's late. But Alex, he doesn't understand. And when there's that much stress and like some of the challenges, even for people who are deaf, where they're trying to see about math so they can read lips, there's just this kind of fear there that's a fear that is not the same as a fear that I have, because it's just, you have to be extremely patient, and that can be really trying on the families. It can be really trying on, why are people not visiting us anymore? Why can't I have any communication with anyone anymore? Like, how do we make sense of something if we can't communicate in the same ways that we used to? And that's really, really challenging. And it takes like a whole team, but it isn't something that people always want to jump into easily. And so there's just so much for, great caregivers to be able to, have the things that they need to help keep everything and make everyone be able to have the empowerment that they deserve as human beings, as a natural human right.
And for those of you that are caregivers right now, God bless you. Yes, I said God bless you, because you are my heroes. You may not wear capes, but if you get up every single morning, and this goes for my age as well, if you get up every single morning and go care for someone, whether you're living with them or come into their house as an essential worker, yes, God bless you, because it's a challenge to have right now. And I think caregivers need more credit than they get, because
Yeah, and
without
it's hard
care,
to find caregivers right now too.
ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, you hit the nail right on the head, Jenny. You hit
Yeah.
I didn't tell Jenny to say that, but it is hard to find caregivers, because caregivers are few and far between, even if they are family members. And so I think my emphasis, once I get this journalism degree, is going to be not only for the disabled, but for the caregivers, to help them out from my perspective as a disabled adult, because they are having a heck of a time right now. And with this big change, the disabled is like, I need my routine. I need what creature comforts I have. And for those who are deaf, they can't understand what's going on. And I don't care how old you are, but for those who have cancer, they can't understand what's going on. And I have witnessed a cancer journey of my own, and a cancer journey of my father's, and he was getting delusional at the end of his cancer, and
Yeah.
he died May 19th of 2019. But on May 17th, he was saying, "When, what hotel are we in?"
Yeah.
And this is a guy that had a psychology degree from Georgetown University.
Yeah.
And so he was smart as a whip and funny
Yeah.
too. But at the end, he couldn't even remember what day it was. I was surprised. He remembered my name. I was surprised. He remembered my name, and let alone his fiance's name, who happens to be my stepmom now. And so I feel like I learned in October that this is going to be my calling, and I was blessed to be put in the position to learn about other disabilities in October, and I was blessed enough to be put in a position where I was able to travel and meet people who were
Yeah.
disabled. And that's going to be my calling, because that is, being a caregiver for the disabled is difficult. It's a difficult challenge, and especially it's a difficult challenge when you are trying to do your best and you don't get thanked at the end. And I have had so much caregiver turnover since my dad died that it's not even funny. So I'm blessed enough to have the caregivers that I do, and included my stepmom. And I'm blessed enough to have the financial resources that I do. But at the same time, I want to bang the drum for those who are less fortunate, and especially when it comes to the caregiving end of it.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I'm glad to know that part of it now. Yeah.
Oh, no. So many
Yeah, that's
people
really cool. I was kind of thinking about it. Yeah.
thought, oh, Wynn's going to bang the drum for the disabled. No, Wynn's going to bang the drum for the disabled, but put on top of it, Wynn's banging the drum for the caregivers, and Wynn's sharing the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, journalism is a special thing. I'm glad that that's been a part of my life for the last, like, I don't know, always. And it's been really interesting because when I left and went to get my master's, like it was not a thing I thought that, like, I considered going into journalism, but it was always like, oh, you can't actually work doing any of these things. And I just kept finding myself back in it, writing for papers or doing different jobs, but without the like basic certification, working for radio, having my show with radio stations and doing things. And it's just been like something super, super rewarding, kind of getting to know people's stories and being able to, share. For me, it's the working artist. It's about trying to like bridge the gaps between like not knowing how to do something when it's really challenging, which is sort of the music world, like how to make a career in it. Right, everyone's really struggling because all the event spaces are closing, and it is pretty amazing when it's something that you're passionate about and you're able to give voice to those things and help those people out. It makes the end of the day feel really amazing, and like I like making a difference in the world, or at least to try. So it's good. This is great. I'm glad to know that now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And my fan base is going to be like, what? You have
What?
been holding this secret since October, and I have made a couple of pivots in my life. And so we'll see when I come out of this journalism degree. We'll see how many. I'll probably be busier than ever because people know I left education, and so
Yeah.
I'll probably be busier than ever helping the disabled,
Yeah.
let alone helping the caregivers, because caregivers are number one, and
There's a need.
their need, and their frontline workers right now, even though you may be taking care of your mom, and even though you may
Yeah.
be taking care of your disabled brother or sister, you are frontline workers in my eyes. and and it's not about the doctors and the nurses. And yes, you can balk and squawk at me for saying that. It's not about the doctors and nurses and grocery store workers and the pharmacists who are on the front lines. It's about those people who are helping the disabled live on a daily basis through this coronavirus thing, because the disabled have a challenge of not understanding.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Wow.
and so I will bang the drum for high quality care, as long as I can have it and as long as I can get it, and I will not be going, I will not be silenced about high quality care. I will not be silenced about um, caregiver respect. I think now more than ever, caregivers are needed, and caregivers are on the front lines doing what they do. And you can call a nurse a caregiver, but you can also call a respite worker a caregiver too. And so
Yeah.
caregivers are needed, and essentially in the home they're needed, and they need to understand that people have different challenges, and you need to sit with those different people and explain what's going on to the best of their abilities, whether it's lip reading, whether it's um, via eye gauge machine, whether it's via computerized talking machine, whether it's by speaking to them so they understand, via deaf, whether it's I don't care. I don't care, you guys, but I need to bang the drum for respite workers, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm banging the drums with you. I don't have
Ah,
I was like, do I have any drums right next to me? Just my drum machine. I do. I mean,
well, there we go.
bang
But
that
you're
drum.
going
Yeah.
to bang the drum with me, and I know a lot of people on now that I've let that secret out of the bag. And so, Jeni, I appreciate your time. Um, I know it's been difficult for all of us, but
Yeah.
Jeni, what would be your closing thoughts for this interview?
I think that my closing thoughts on all of this are, check in on the people around you. I guess kind of where we're coming from this conversation right here, because it is important, that you think about what needs you can fill in this time. Especially, I know that, if you are struggling, take that time that you need to. If you need to have a respite, like if you aren't familiar with the concept of respite, it's having that break. And for workers, it means that they're having a break in getting just a break from someone else. But for you, it might be something else. And make sure to, if you're creating media or you're out there doing something, that you are giving yourself space to not always have to be the tough one. You can be soft. That also can mean having grit. It doesn't all have to be hard. You can laugh. But check in on the people around you. See, make sure that they're doing okay. And I see a lot of kind of vitriol out there right now, and it's easy to be inflamed about things. And I'm working through some of those feelings always myself too. But we still get to be kind, even if we disagree with each other. You might very much disagree with someone or have a moment, but make sure that you understand that it's still a place we need to have love. And we need to be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes, probably more importantly than ever. So,
Yep.
Get out there, get your voice out there, but take care of yourself. Yeah, I think that's my big takeaway. And yeah,
I definitely agree. And yes, and if people want me on their podcast, please let me know, and please come in and find me. I am locking down my Facebook right now because I am getting some really weird friend requests. And
yeah,
that's always scary when
yeah.
these really weird friend requests. But come and find me, and I'll be able to help you out, and Jeni will be able to help you out as well. And
totally. If you have tech, for me, it's like if you have a lot of tech issues or trying to navigate some of this is something I'm really great at. I do a lot of consultations on being able to help people kind of jump into that stuff, find the problems, troubleshoot with them. So that's kind of my expertise. And so we're here. We're here for you.
We're here
Win
for
and
you.
Jeni for the win.
No pun intended.
Banging the drums.
For you guys.
I know,
and Jeni, I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode of Ask Wren. I will be back with another fabulous guest. But for now, be safe, be happy, be healthy, you guys. And we will pull through this on the other side, you guys. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Bye.
You just listened to Ask Wren, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwren.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Wren on Twitter at Wren Kelly Charles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Wren's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Wren, the podcast.